Welcome to Shaplen. And as you know, guys, I am getting my fashion journalism degree, aka my journalism degree, and I'm on the phone. And so I am very lucky to on the phone. On the phone. And so I am lucky to bring this person on who I was very lucky to have teach me in a way that I will never forget. And he asked me before we got on this phone call, he said, well, what do you want people to learn from you on this podcast? And I knew he was going to ask me this question because one of the things he taught me in class was that you shouldn't ask softball questions, aka yes or no questions. And so my goal with this podcast is to be the inspirational journalist. Enough of me rambling on. I'm going to let Mr. Peter Shaplen take it away. And of course, he's got the lucky stick with his career. I've got the lucky stick in enrolling in a fabulous program, the Academy Awards. And I am going to continue this journey, and Peter Shaplen is going to continue teaching with them. And so hopefully you guys, if you guys are looking for a fabulous online program, the Academy Awards is highly recommended. No, they did not pay me to say that, but I'm in that program and I love it dearly. So I'm going to let Peter Shaplen take it away.
Well, Wynn, thank you very much for inviting me and getting us both this opportunity to communicate, to chat. And it was a pleasure having you in my writing class, which you did very well in. So it was good to have you there too. And you added a lot to the class. In particular, you added a lot because you were able to express both your CP as well, your identity both as a student, as a student with CP, and also as an advocate for yourself. And all of that is very impressive and was certainly appreciated in the class. So I thank you for doing that as well.
Well, I try, and you're welcome. I try to be an advocate for those who can't speak. That's one of the reasons why I'm getting my journalism degree, for those who can't speak. And I want to be the inspirational journalist in my lifetime, in my journalistic career. So my first question to you is, what has been your favorite piece you have got to work on?
Oh, that is a tough, almost impossible question, because over the course of, I want to mumble this number, 40 or more than 40 years, there have been hundreds and hundreds of pieces that I have really liked and a few pieces that I have not particularly enjoyed the people. I mean, I've been lucky enough to cover presidential campaigns and traveled with first families, including, well, name dropping first families, and to have relationships with some of them as a member of their the press corps. I've covered conventions. I've covered people visits. I would answer your question, though. I think some of my favorite stories are probably those that were not told by anyone or everyone else. I'll give you an example. Back during the war in El Salvador and in Nicaragua, generally the stories that got on the network evening news were stories that featured fighting. And even if there wasn't a whole lot of fighting on a particular day, if there was a gunfight, if there was a convoy, if there was something that had a little bit of violence, New York would be more interested in that story than not. But we knew in the country that most of the country was very peaceful that day, that most of the country just went about its business that day and was not caught up in any gunfight or even in any revolution that moment. And so the view of the country was a little bit distorted. That is, many people watching in America would think that it was all war all the time. A number of our cameramen have made really pretty pictures during the course of their travels. It might have been a market. It might have been a sunset. It might even have been one day when at around about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a cameraman from Miami made a picture of some women doing laundry in a river, along a riverbank, and also bathing. And it was just a beautiful picture shot in the marvelous light, what we sometimes call an hour of light, where everything has a sort of beautiful hue. Anyway, we saw this picture, and it seemed to myself and to a correspondent that we had these postcards of El Salvador that, for the most part, never got seen. And we put together a story that aired on the weekend news. They were the only program that showed interest. That was basically a postcard of beautiful El Salvador. And we produced it because it was a counterpoint to all of the rest of the coverage that showed war. So that would be the kind of story, the different story, the story that we saw. And notice I'm using we because it's never just one person. In this case, it was camera people like Carl Hirsch and David Shanahan, and the correspondent was Charlie Murphy, who's now passed away. But a number of us saw these pictures, and we figured out a way to use them in what otherwise they would have ended up on what we call the cutting room floor. That is, they would have been lost and never seen. So it was the story that was different. That's the kind of story that I probably will take greatest pride in.
Now, did you have the privilege and opportunity to work with John McCain and do a story on him? I know you said you had done some presidential work, but did you ever have the opportunity to work with John McCain?
Sadly, I did not. No, sadly, I did not. I would have liked to, but didn't.
Yep. To all the journalists out there that did, you guys got the lucky stick. You guys got the lucky stick. And for those of you that don't know, John McCain passed away of brain cancer on Sunday, and he was the one that instilled keeping Obamacare in America and in the world's eyes. And of course, I'm on Obamacare, so thank you very much, John McCain, for coming in and beating that drum like there was no tomorrow. He said no. He came in deathly ill after having surgery. So our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and I mean that from the bottom of our hearts. And I just wanted to ask Peter if he got the fortune to work with John McCain, but to the journalists who did, you guys got the lucky stick on that one. And so, Peter, what would you suggest for any journalism student who wants to go into journalism or is not so lucky like I am to have the fabulous teachings of you?
Well, those are two very different questions. I'll take them in you asked. The first, what would I say to journalism students or want to be journalism students? And I would say, work on being a storyteller. Understand the story you want to tell and realize that all stories feature people. We're far more interested in stories that are told in and about and around people rather than things. So be a storyteller and understand the power of people and understand that audiences' attentions are very fractured these days, and don't try to tell too much all at once. The second question, students like yourself, there is a rule for students who are with disadvantage to be journalists. It's a lot tougher to do, but it is certainly doable. And in fact, you should be an advocate for them. There's some stories that would be more difficult to cover than others, but that does not preclude or mean that you cannot have a very full.
Yeah, exactly.
So even as I say that, there's going to have to be a lot of education on the part of managers and others in power to understand how to use young students like yourself, young journalists like yourself. You present different challenges and different opportunities. But there's going to have to be one heck of a lot of education and awareness. And just to continue that same thought, because I know you're very involved in education yourself, you realize that your students, whether they have a disadvantage or not, are going to see things and get things from you that are quite distinct, but that they and you are going to have to work together in order to be effective. That requires a lot of extra work.
Oh, you're not kidding. You're not kidding. I mean, there were days, and now I can tell you this. I couldn't tell you this in class. There were days where I sat at my computer doing homework assignments about supply. Why am I doing this? Why am I? Well, you say that at the end, but I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I learning this? Because I'm going to be an advocate for the disabled journalists. And so that's why I stuck with this class and didn't try when I wanted to. But I have learned through this program that a journalist with a disability is a different journalist than a journalist who can carry a camera and doesn't get scrambled by their own thinking.
Right, sure. I think two things here as well, Wynn. The first is, though no instructor should ever want to make a student cry, that's never our intent. I know it isn't your intention either. Any good instructor is going to want to challenge their student. And I've heard from students of other students in the past who have said, gee whiz, Peter, you're awfully tough on us. Gee whiz, nobody else expects us to push ourselves. Well, my response to that is, well, shame on those other instructors. You're paying good money. Somebody is paying good money in order to learn. And so if you simply want a pat on the head or a chuck under the chin, or to be said in a very patronizing way, oh, good girl, that's just wonderful. Yeah. Get that from your folks. That's not why you're paying me. You're paying me to come after many years of experience and to say, hey, I was lucky enough to have good teachers too. I was lucky, and I'm paying that forward. Now, if I'm tough, so be it. I think that's part of the contract. The contract between you and me is that I'm going to teach you everything I possibly can in a very short period of time, following a curriculum and adding to it wherever I can, on a very tailored basis for that student. You being a very good example of that. I don't make any apologies for being tough because, hey, if for no other reason, let's say you get a job. And no, you won't be carrying a camera. That's probably an unrealistic job for you. But let's say you get a job and you're doing a tough interview with somebody who's a real son of a, I guess I can't say that on the air, a real tough son of a
That's
gun.
okay. That's
We'll
okay.
be polite today.
We all know the word that you were trying to think of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you can't just simply be a patsy for that person. You can't simply be a fawning sycophant. Oh, well, you're so wonderful, and oh, my. You want to get that person to tell you something that they haven't already said 17 times before, and that doesn't even sound realistic. You want to push that person as hard as you can. Well, that's the nature of interviews. That's the nature of storytelling. If they want to have a piece written about them, but what a great person they are, they're just wonderful. Hey, that's what advertising is about. But that's what public relations is. That's not what journalism is supposed to be about. We're supposed to ask tougher questions and tell you things that you wouldn't otherwise learn. Now, I would hope, and I think the answer to this is yes, but I would hope that you learned as much about good as anything else from my class. You also should have learned that you not only know how to do it, but that you can do it.
Well, yes, I did. Yes, I did, and that's publicly. And if you want healthy journalistic interviews, don't come to me, people. Don't come to me. I mean, do not come to me, especially if you're going to say something against the disabled. No, I will come back at you with my journalistic hat on and rake you over the coals. And so let's just put it that way. So if you want the flowery interviews for the disabled and be nice about the disabled, nope, I'm the wrong journalist to do it. And Peter's laughing at me because that's the God honest truth. And as we wrap up this fabulous interview, Peter, is there anything that you want to ask me that the public, my listeners, should know about me?
Yeah, I think of a couple of questions, and here's the underlying. A lot of people's hesitance, uncertainty about folks who have a disability. Let's use CP as an example. Maybe I'm wrong, so let me maybe I'm mistaken. Last question. I think so many people would be fearful to hire you. What makes you scared?
What makes me stand out? And I think what makes me stand out.
No, when I asked what makes you scary to them. I can think of many reasons why you stand out. What makes you scary to them? Why do people fear?
I didn't catch that, Peter.
No worries. I wanted to focus.
What makes me scary? What makes me scary, I think, to the general public is they see a person, well, first of all, they see a walker before they see me. And you didn't see the walker, you got the online version of me. But when I'm in public, I use a walker / I'm soon going to be using e-bike. So, of course, they see my assistive devices before any word comes out of my mouth. So that will scare them off. I almost said might scare them off, but I'm thinking that will scare them off. So yes, the walker makes me scary, but the walker is less intimidating than you guys think.
What else makes them scared?
The way that I walk. The way that I walk. I walk like I'm half drunk. And even when I haven't had a sip of alcohol, I walk like I'm half drunk. So they look at me, and because of my CP, they look at me and automatically assume, well, that journalist can't stand on her own 2 feet. Why can't we might as well put her behind the desk and let her do the office job because of the way she walks.
Yeah. So the question that prompts for you and for your listeners, but it's also a question that I ask every student that has no bearing on us or speech impediment whatsoever. It's how do you articulate your brand, the brand of win, so that even if somebody sees you with a walker and goes, oh my, or hears you or sees motions that are exaggerated or different, say, many others, how do you overcome that? How do you get in my face and say, wait a minute, don't make judgments about me until you get to know me. And when you get to know me, I think you'll want to hire me. How do you cross that line? How do you attack that line?
I have very strong opinions. I mean, I love my mother dearly, and this is one of the homework assignments that you had me do for my final project. And then you had me put the infographic in, which, for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, an infographic is basically a picture, and I have very strong opinions. I'm not a wallflower. I am not a wallflower, and I think being in the education field has made me a very opinionated person / opinionated journalist. And so I have very strong opinions. So I will get in people's faces about stuff I'm passionate about, and then I won't let it go until they let me go.
Good. I was just thinking about that because I think it's obviously very important, not just for your identity, because you can be an advocate. And you probably most likely will be an advocate in much of what you report on. And that has a role, that has a very important role as well. But I think that, and I commend you, certainly you don't need my commendation, but I'm impressed by your perseverance, and I really hope for all the best for you in your fashion journalism, as well as regular mainstream journalism, journalism for those who are disabled or disadvantaged. There are very, very few people like yourself who seem to be part of a major part of this industry, and it probably is something we all should do better about.
Yep. Well, I appreciate your time this morning, and I hope you guys enjoyed this fabulous interview. This has been one of my favorite interviews yet, and only because I got the privilege to work with Peter in my class, and I'm sorry that you guys didn't get the understanding of teaching journalism, but Peter doesn't want to do that because he's done enough of that already this summer. My class ran from June 25th to August 15th. So he's done enough of teaching about journalism. So I just wanted him to come on and explain why he went into journalism and what his favorite pieces were, and no softball questions. And so I hope you guys enjoy another fabulous episode. Thanks, you guys.